How is it that basically every significant infrastructure project that the province of Ontario, either through Metrolinx or whatever, undertakes, whether it's a streetcar line on St. Clair, whether it's Eglinton Crosstown, LRT, whether it's the renovation of Union Station down by the waterfront, it always seems to go over time and over budget. How do we tell guys like Jason, don't worry, it'll be worth it in the long run?
Well, I think that first off, you need truth in advertising. I mean, in most infrastructure projects in most big cities, they go long. It takes longer than people project. There's a way of getting political approval, is that, you know, the politicians will say to people like Jason, this is what we're going to do. You're going to have these benefits. It's going to happen quickly. And there's no world in which that is the case, right? So I think we don't do a really good job in managing expectations. And I think that we've kind of locked into a system of using these, you know, private consortia to build these big transportation projects, you know, with an eye to getting them built on time and on budget, which has perversely, you know, produced the exact opposite effect. You know, the last major subway project that was completed in Toronto was the extension of the Yonge University subway line up to Vaughan Metropolitan Centre. And that was basically done by the TTC. And, you know, it wasn't like exactly on time, it wasn't exactly on budget, but it wasn't bad. You know, whereas compared to the Eglinton Crosstown and whatever, you know, however long it's going to take to build the Ontario line, you know, I think that there's a problem with the model that we're using.
That's what I was referring to as the big mistakes at the beginning. Yeah. I worked on both the construction of TYSSE, the extension, and on the Eglinton Crosstown in a
What was that acronym you said?
TYSSE.
What's that?
Toronto York Subway, Spadina Subway Extension.
Oh, okay, got it. You worked on that.
That was one of my first jobs. So for me, it's a career and a half ago. That's how long these projects have been going on.
So you see where the insult lies now. The insult is when I hear this lovely lady say they're going to try to prevent the screw-ups. I hear this gentleman over here, the reporter, he's talking about they'll lie.
He's lovely too, incidentally.
Yeah, well, you know, the point I'm trying to make is, as a business owner, I can't work off of you screwing up and lies. I can't tell my workers screw-ups. I can't tell my workers lies. So I have to hold the government, the city, to the same accountability that my workers hold me. This nice lady here is telling us that they screwed up. I know this from 2012, from Catherine Wynne was in office. I wrote Catherine Wynne when she started her bullying program. I feel as a business owner, I've been bullied. I've been bullied the last 14 years of my life. My whole family has been subjected to being hostage on Eglinton West by Metrolinx. This lady here says it was a screw-up. This man says they lied. I know you guys are talking about bringing a next Ontario line to people. Make sure when you bring it, because I can't stop you, make sure you don't screw up people's livelihoods. Make sure you don't lie to people. That's my advice as a business owner.
Shoshana, you want to finish the point?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to respond to that. The thing is, there is absolutely no way to build these big projects without, to a certain extent, screwing up people's livelihoods.
Excuse me?
Which is horrible.
Excuse me?
You know, there is going to be, they should not have taken as long, they should not have been lying, they should not have said, we'll be done and then not be done. But a certain amount of disruption will absolutely come with the Ontario line. And so the question becomes, how do we treat people with dignity while we make their realities harder? What kind of support would you have wanted, could they have given you during the time period to help make it less bad?
Well, we know we're living in an economy where everything goes up. So like how you have a project, it's how much billions? How much billions are we at now? 15 billion? If we're at 15 billion for this project...
For the Eglinton Crosstown?
How much billion are we at?
I think we're at 12.
We're at 12, okay, just 12 billion, okay. So how much businesses have closed down? We have over 250 small businesses that have closed down within Little Jamaica.
We are less than 2 months away from having a new president in the United States, and then whoever wins will have, I guess, about 6 weeks to put together the most powerful and complicated government in the world. Generally speaking, how well do these transitions happen, particularly, let's say, if the party in the White House changes?
Yeah, it's a very unique system, and that's what my book is about. So, in the US system, as you mentioned, there's around 11 weeks between the election and inauguration. And in that 11 weeks, the president has to do an enormous amount. They have to they appoint 4,000 people. They have to appoint 1,000 to 2,000 of those to have a operational government at 12:01 on January 20th. They have to get all their legislation and regulatory side of things ready to go on day one, and they have to deal with any crises. So it's just an enormous amount of work to be done in a very short period of time. And again, one of the unique things about the US system, and I lived through this, is at 11:59 on January 20th, one team's in charge. At 12:01, a whole new team is in charge, and literally the whole White House changes from 1 minute to the next. So preparing for that and doing all the work necessary to have a functioning government and probably the most important single governing unit in the world is just a vast amount of work, and that's what the book is about.
There is, though, and it's on both sides of the border, I think it's fair to say, a bit of a superstition that one never wants to count one's chickens before they hatch, and therefore any evidence that you are sort of planning to take over before you've actually won an election just is considered not wise to do. What do you think about that superstition?
Yeah, there's this concept called measuring the drapes, which, as the name suggests, is you don't want to be seen to be too presumptive, and that if anything, it will curse your chances. I actually I argue against the opposite in the book. I think, in fact, being presumptive is important, that it shows that you're ready to govern. There's no other organization in the world or other circumstance in the world where you wouldn't prepare. So if you were doing an acquisition or a merger in the financial world, in the private sector, clearly you would prepare before the day that you close. So to my mind, it's not a negative, it's actually a positive. It shows that you have the strength and knowledge and foresight to actually govern properly. So I argue to not only do more, but to also be more visible about it.
Well, in fact, I suspect the answer to this question is in the title of the book, but when would you start planning your transition to take over if, in fact, you were running for president?
Yeah, so I call the book Year Zero, which gives everyone a clue, and the subtitle is The 5-Year Presidency. And I'm not suggesting a constitutional change from our 4 years. I'm just saying that if the president wants to really have an effective 4 years in governance, they need to think of their governing period as a 5-year journey. And so to start almost a year ahead, and that sounds like a long way, but the enormous amount that needs to happen in those 11 weeks is so large that you need certainly some months and upwards of a year of planning. Now, you can short circuit some of that by looking to history, looking at books like myself, so a good $30 presidential candidates can spend to get prepared. So you can certainly cut some months off that, but you need certainly 6 and closer to 9 to 12 months to really prepare properly.
Do you think that campaigns could secure the services of the people who would have the knowledge and expertise to do this for potentially a full year before the November election? I mean, that's asking a lot of people.
It's only a small team initially, so if I give you the experience of past presidential campaigns, certainly the Romney case and the Biden case incoming that I wasn't associated with, but I observed, it starts with just 1 or 2 people, like literally myself as executive director and a chairperson. By election time, you have something closer to 500 people ready to go, and then over the election to inauguration period, closer to 1,000. So it builds exponentially over that period. You only need a small steering team over the initial period to really run it. And there's no shortage of people who want to do it. If you think of the hundreds, if not thousands, of people who work on the campaign, the transition is a relatively modest number of people working, and some of these people are paid as well. So there's a lot of people who are really enthusiastic to do it, no shortage.
Let's just, put a little background in place off the top here. Your activism and how you came to this issue in the first place happened how?
When I was younger, I was told to do what I loved, and I loved cannabis, and I loved consuming cannabis. And when I decided to open my first business at age 20, I went to that route, and I ended up opening a head shop, which is back in the day it was called head shops. It was accessory shops, and I ran that for 20 years. And just in the process of being involved in cannabis without being involved in cannabis, I just had to be an activist in order to keep my doors open, the lights on.
Were your folks here in Canada as well?
Yeah.
What did they think of the business you were in?
I remember when I was about 16, I went to see Pink Floyd, and my mother said, my friends went to see Pink Floyd last night, and they said that there was a lot of cannabis in the crowd. They didn't say cannabis back then.
Probably said pot or dope or something.
I can't even remember what it was. It was 1990-something. And I said, well, Mom, yeah, it's Pink Floyd. You know, of course I consume cannabis, Pink Floyd. So when I opened up, they were a little confused about what I was doing, but I think they were proud at the fact that I was doing something that I loved.
It was definitely something you loved, but it was also illegal. Did they not have a problem with that?
I don't think anybody realized that selling bongs and pipes and rolling papers was actually illegal, including me. I remember the first time I ever got a hint that it was even illegal was, I knew cannabis was illegal, but bongs and pipes and rolling papers. I remember going to the GST office to get my number, and the fellow said, well, what's your business going to be? I said, oh, we're going to sell accessories and bongs and pipes. He said, glassware. You're going to sell glassware. And that man saved my business.
So he kind of enabled you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, isn't that
yeah.
interesting? All right. How did your activism / business / life change after legalization 6 years ago?
Everything changed. We went from being sort of a quasi-legal business under the medical regime where, we had a lounge in the back. And we were allowing people to consume cannabis that they had purchased. And then once legalization came through, everything kind of changed. Legal private retail came into play. The Smoke-Free Ontario Act changed over to include cannabis. And at that point, I decided that 20 years was long enough to do what I'd been doing. And I had an opportunity to go work for the Ontario Cannabis Store in their merchandising department. They created a position for me to come and help them transition people into the legal cannabis market. How do we make legal cannabis cool, I guess, was my job. And I worked there for 4 years, and it was a great experience. It was like doing an MBA in cannabis, I always say.
Did you think it was kind of odd to be involved in your own thing, which was sort of illegal, and suddenly now being on the payroll of the government of Ontario? That feel a bit weird?
A little bit weird, but not really. I had, I'd been lobbying and working alongside government for so long, on behalf of Normal Canada, on behalf of the CFBA, which was a lobbying group that I had founded, and I knew a lot of what was happening behind the scenes. So coming into the government was a bit of a shocker in terms of levels of red tape that I never had to deal with before as an entrepreneur. But it was really enjoyable to work with some really interesting people that came from interesting places and taught me so much about supply chain and the business and just things that as an entrepreneur I would have never had the opportunity to learn. I think the public was more shocked about me going to that side of the business than I was.
Because on the one hand, yes, you get to learn all this new stuff, and you're getting your MBA almost on the job. But on the other hand, you're a government employee, and presumably part of what made your old life fun was the subversive maverickiness of it all.
Yeah.
Do you miss that?
I went back to private, and I'm doing a little bit of maverick on my own now. But I also had a lot of pride working for the government and seeing all the work that myself and others had put into legalization for so long. Seeing it come to fruition was really magical. And watching the industry grow from where I was 25 years ago to today, it's mind-blowing that it's just magical.
Did you ever get busted?
Me? No.
Never did.
Never
How
been
did you
arrested.
manage to not run afoul of the
I'm
law?
really cute.
Let's start with music. Is it a science? Is it an art? Is it medicine? Where is it on that continuum?
I think it's all of them. Why does it have to be just one?
Doesn't.
Going back to Pythagoras, of course, there's the science of how the overtone series works. Certainly, musicologists take a scientific approach to understanding how music is composed and performed. Empirical musicologists and music neuroscientists like myself take a scientific approach to understanding how it creates the effects it does emotionally and cognitively. And certainly, it's unequivocally an art. And it's an interesting art form. It's the only art form that causes your body to move. You don't look at a painting and want to twitch and dance and, you know.
But you do with music.
Yeah.
You do. All right, let's pursue this notion of music and the effect it has on the brain. And you refer to this in your book where somebody sings Happy Birthday at a party, someone starts it, they set the key, everybody else pretty much joins in, and they join in key. How does that happen?
Isn't that fascinating?
It is.
And there's no reason that it should. The Gestalt psychologists back in 1890 posed this problem. A song, they said, is an auditory object composed of pitches, but you can change every single pitch and it's still the same song. How does that happen? Well, the brain has giant pattern detectors. If nothing else, that's what the brain is. It is itself a giant pattern detector. And so it seeks to find order in the world. If you've ever laid on your back on a sunny day and looked at the clouds and you've seen bunny rabbits and things, it's your brain imposing some sort of order on what is a disordered world. So we see the pattern of pitches, we create a mental representation of the melody, and then that is shiftable in pitch space and in temporal space. I can drag it out. Happy birthday, you know, doing really slow, and you still recognize it.
You sounded like Marilyn Monroe to JFK there for a second. Well, a little bit.
Mr. President.
Yeah. How is it possible that some very musical people can hear music, they dance perfectly to the beat, they know the songs, when they sing them, every note sounds the same?
Yeah, so there's been a lot written about this, and I dubbed this back in the 90s a kind of tune deafness. It's not tone deafness because they can hear the difference between the tones, but they're tune deaf, particularly when they're singing. So one possibility is that they just lack precise control over the vocal folds, that they just never learned how to match a pitch they hear in their head with their muscle. And, you know, it's like learning to bat when you're a kid, right? You don't always hit the ball. You've got to learn how to coordinate your movements. Another possibility, not mutually exclusive, is that they have what we call a self-monitoring deficit, which is that they don't realize they're not singing the pitches.
Interesting. Okay. Again, I know this from the book.
You said interesting, but it sounds like you weren't really interested. Sounds like you were moving on.
No, on the contrary. Well, yeah. I can find it both interesting and yet need to move on at the same time. This is the nature of an interview.
Yeah, thank you.
When I read about your wife, Heather, I thought, okay, she and I have something in common here, because I'd be really good at that game, Name That Tune. You remember that? Where
Yeah.
I can pick I know a song after 2 or 3 notes.
Da, da, da.
Star Spangled Banner.
I was thinking All of Me, but...
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
Okay, works both ways. But lyrics. I am having a devil of a time remembering the lyrics to songs that I knew the lyrics of completely back in the day. How can I be so good at one aspect of memory but not at the other?
Yeah, and my wife, Heather, doesn't know any lyrics at all. She just hears the melody. And she can do that, name that tune in 3 notes just from the melody. You know, different people have different foci, different things about music that grab them. It can be rhythm, it can be the timbre, the sound of Johnny Cash's voice is just, you know, what you tune into. It can be the lyrics. And then I think what you're describing is a declining over time
Yes.
cognizance or memory for the lyrics.
Not for the tune, though. The tune's there,
Yeah.
but the words.
So from a cognitive neuroscience perspective, the tune is a highly structured medium. There are only 12 notes, and Carol Krumhansel and others have shown that even the average non-musician listener has a very highly sophisticated, basically statistical detector that knows which notes are likely to follow which. And so that gives you a leg up because there are these probabilities about what notes follow which. And then every once in a while, the composer surprises you and throws in a note that you didn't expect, and that's memorable because it's surprising. Lyrics are less constrained, they're less structured. And so that's probably one of the reasons that they slip out.